Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Wow, I can't understand how someone can be so hateful towards their fellow man. Breaks my heart. More in our first story right after a short pause. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned off bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Karen demands police get rid of homeless woman minding her own business. So today I encountered my first Karen worth posting on the internet. I wish it was fake over how heartless the event was. I had to go into the county police office to get a permit for my job. When I first opened the door, there's a group of 30s to 40s women who have lined up tons of bags along doors so that it's quite difficult to get to the front desk. I'm trying to figure out how to get by without disrupting whatever they're doing, but one of the women with an oversized pink Sunday best style hat starts glaring at me and orders me, "The front desk is over there. Don't damage our donations." Okay, abnormally snippy for someone who just met me, but I brush it off because I have something important to do. I make it to the front desk and I'm told who I need to see is returning soon. I'm asked to sit and wait in the interim. I'm still within earshot of the group of women who are chattering away. Within minutes, 3 officers come by to thank them and accept the donations. Immediately, the pink hat woman pipes up after the thank you. "Pink hat, as a thank you, you can help me out with a problem in my community." 2 of the officers start carrying things away, maybe expecting how things would go from there. The third stays to figure out what she means. "Officer, we're always happy to help wherever we can." Pink hat, "Good. I've seen a woman walking around in the parking lot of local shopping center. She has no shoes or socks and talks to herself. She's obviously homeless. I'm worried about her. I don't think she's all there." Officer, "That's concerning. When we're next on patrol out there later today, we'll keep an eye out for her and try to connect her with resources to help her. Maybe get some socks and shoes and shelter." Pink hat, "So she'll be elsewhere from now on?" At this point, the other women are starting to scurry away to the parking lot, whether to grab other donations or because they know how Pink Hat really is and know the holy church-going lady facade is slipping. The officer looks a little befuddled. If she accepts our help, yes. At this point, Pink Hat is going red in the face and her eyes are bugging out like a hamster that was squeezed too hard. Her voice comes out shrill as a teapot. "But I don't want her where I shop. She frightens my children." I'm too stunned to help or know what to even say. The front desk woman and I share a look of shock. Remarkably, the officer readjusts to the situation and becomes matter of fact. "Has she approached your children?" "No, but she scared them. My 5-year-old is very brave and never cries, but seeing her made her cry yesterday." This is where the woman at the front desk hits her threshold of maximum nonsense she'll hear and calls over, "What is that show? My son would cry over eating broccoli when he was 5. Pink Hat snatches the door to leave and looks bright red, shining with sweat like a zit about to pop, and screams, "You're police! Do something!" The officer starts saying, "We're not taking legal action unless..." She slams the door and storms out. Something illegal happens. She gestures to her hens in the parking lot and they all scramble back to their cars and get out quickly. I realized I was just a bystander in this, but it was my first real-life, story-worthy encounter with the Karen kind. And our second story. Get paid for literally doing nothing for an hour? You got it. A few years ago, I worked retail at a store where people would stop by to purchase video games. After about 2 years, our district manager decided that in order to properly open a store, the opening employee needed to arrive 2 hours before the store opened. He was such a stickler for this, he fired a good friend of mine for violating his policy. Granted, my friend would show up 15 minutes before the store was supposed to open and would frequently skip a lot of the required opening duties. It was actually my friend getting fired that got me transferred to this particular store. Now, the location was in a mall, and the store itself was about twice the size of your standard broom closet. This meant that including a 15-minute trip to the bank to deposit the cash from the previous day, it never took more than an hour to get the store ready to be open. This meant that if I showed up at 9 a.m., I could easily have the store ready to open at 10 a.m. when the mall opened. Also, showing up at an hour before the store opened gave me an extra hour to help out whoever was closing the store that evening with normal duties, like processing shipments, organizing merchandise, being rude to jerk customers, etc. After about a week or two of this, I get a very angry call from the district manager. He'd apparently wanted something at 8:15 one morning and called the store. Because no one answered, he decided that no one was showing up to open the store properly, and that must mean that the store was a complete mess. I explained to him that the store was small enough that it didn't require 2 hours to get ready to open, even if there was still things that needed to be done from the night before, which, while not frequent, was common enough that I was used to it. I also explained that because of how corporate works the scheduling, me showing up an hour earlier meant I had to leave an hour earlier, which would increase the workload for anyone who was closing. He didn't want to hear it, as this was his policy and I was the only one not following it in his whole district, and that if I didn't follow his orders, then I could look for a new job. Well, not wanting to lose my sweet gig of selling video games to the colorful customers of this particular game store, I complied. So from then on, I would show up at 8 a.m. sharp every morning I was opening the store. I would get everything I needed done around the store by 8:30 and be back from the bank by 8:45. I would then sit on the counter and wait for 10 a.m. Then I would leave an hour earlier than usual, so I had more time to do other things. I was going to college full-time, so having an extra hour was actually a blessing. This, however, meant whoever was closing the store was on their own for an hour before the rest of the closing staff would show up. The true malicious compliance, however, came the day I was opening and the store manager had to call out sick. In order to save on possible overtime, which the company was completely against for any reason, the district manager agreed to cover her closing shift. This day just happened to be a day where it was particularly slow in the morning, so I had the store looking perfect when he showed up for the closing shift. To make things even better, the shipment for that day was late, and so it showed up shortly before I was to clock out. On top of that, the traffic into the store picked up as I was having to leave. This meant that I left the district manager with a large shipment needing to be processed, a store full of snot-nosed kids and angry soccer moms, and no one to help him deal with this for at least another hour. Needless to say, the look of angry frustration on his face as I clocked out is one of my most cherished memories from my time at that store. I love it when the rules come back to bite them in the butt. And our next story. You wouldn't want me to work here, really. This happened a few months ago. I'm at the Walmart after a long and haggard night shift. There's probably blood and other fluids on my person, and I look and feel like a zombie. I need sheets because my mom's coming over that day, and the only set that fit the guest bed have indelible black marker on them from an earlier laundry incident. As I stumble around the sheet aisle, almost hallucinating from exhaustion, trying to figure out the benefit of microfiber over just saying F it and giving up any pretense of adulthood, this gray, curly-haired witch slithers up to me. She demands to know when I'm going to assist her by getting a product down off one of the higher shelves. She's been waiting for me for ages. I look at her with stunned confusion, which sealed my fate as an obvious employee of this forsaken store. My scrubs are indeed blue, and I am wearing an orange lanyard with my name and picture brightly displayed, but no vest in sight. I apologize and state that I do not work there, expecting the conversation to end. This only encourages the woman who insists that I help her. I'm terrible at confrontation. I look around madly for an actual employee, but as usual, there are none to be found. I give in, find a step stool, and get the lady her item. She leaves, and I tell her to have a nice day. I grab my sheets and go to pay. I see the lady at customer service gesturing wildly and pointing at me. My heart sinks. I just want to go home and sleep for 50 years. After she leaves, the person behind the counter approaches me. Do you work here? I muster up all the energy I have left and gaze at him with my dead healthcare worker eyes. No, you don't. Sorry for disturbing you. I'll never know if the lady was praising me or trying to get me fired. With my luck, she'll one day show up at my place of employment, and I'll have to assist in removing the stick from her butt. I love how you're just so done with it all, you just decide to pick up another part-time job. Good for you, OP. Working instead of sleeping like a good little employee. And our last story. My neighbor built a shed right on my property line. My wife got a new refrigerator. The neighbor's backyard behind me butts up against my backyard. I have a 6-foot fence and we both have trees on either side of it, so even in the winter there's a decent amount of screening between us. Imagine my surprise one day when my youngest daughter came in and said, "I suppose you know that the neighbors built a shed right up against the back fence, right?" I rushed out to the back deck, and sure enough, there was a 10 by 15 ugly butt shed literally a foot off my fence. I called him up and said, "Hey, what's up with the new shed?" And he said he'd come over and talk to me about it. Once he came over, I said, "Man, that thing's right on my property line, and I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be 10 feet back." I asked him if he could move it back so it wasn't so much in our face when we were sitting on our deck. He claimed because of the slope of his yard and a drainage ditch, that was the only place that it could be. I was also worried that if we ever sold our house and it was surveyed, then it might become a big hassle. So my neighbor offered to buy a piece of my property and make it right, but only wanted to pay us $900. That's when my wife rolled on up from out of the house. She'd known the neighbor for a long time and thought he was an a-hole already to begin with. She immediately went for the throat. She told him that she needed a new refrigerator and the model she wanted cost $2,200, so that was the price for the land. Or she could just call zone enforcement to make him move it or start getting fined. Plus, she told him that he was paying for the surveying and filing the property line adjustment. So that's the story of how my neighbor bought my wife a brand new fancy refrigerator. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.